Hello everyone, it's me, Rune, and today we're talking about Dragoon, the fierce warrior of the Sun faction. In this video, I'm going to awaken him and share my thoughts on the character, as well as any experiences I've had. So, who is he? Dragoon's a premier S-tier hero for the Sun faction, alongside Valkyrie, Dion, and Rockefeller. He's probably the best among them, but I honestly have no idea about Dion because I play on iOS, and we're not allowed to have updates as of the recording of this video. But I hear that she is dodge-based, and that pretty much solidifies my opinion about Dragoon being the best of the lot, but we'll get to that later. His role is that of a bruiser, similar to Thor, but with perhaps a much heavier leaning towards the damage-dealing end of things. Dragoon is capable of knocking out one or two heroes, but unlike the very fair Billy and Asura, he can't kill literally anyone and everyone. Characters like Harmonia, Gluttony, and even certain Ramses builds can be a real nightmare for him to deal with. His rage deals a metric crap ton of damage, especially with a gold tier or higher artifact. His third skill hits harder than many characters' rage skills, and his passive second skill gives him up to 90% block and resilience before factoring in whatever block and resilience he already had. Outside of PvP, Dragoon can support the team in tower defense mode with his haste buff, while also dealing blazing amounts of damage in a vertical line with his special. While he rarely tops the hero damage charts on the tower defense damage ranking, it is obvious that he and his pet, Dragon, put in a lot of work. To be honest, the disparity I see between his damage dealt on screen compared to the damage listed in the combat results leads me to believe that perhaps his damage is not being properly calculated. But that's just speculation. Now, before I move on to the awakening, I should say that this guy has been an absolutely stellar underperformer, coming in at just above an average rating in practice. On paper, he's an absolute beast and should be the best hero in the game. Little known fact, his kit is actually the reason I switched from the Moon faction to Sun long ago. I honestly expected him to be better. One of the caveats that has to be understood with the character is that he needs speed. I found this out the hard way after leveling up an entire speedless gym set to 15 for him. Talk about a monumental waste of gold. The reason that speed is so important for Dragoon is that none of his buffs activate until he takes his first action. This means that he is completely vulnerable until he gets to go. When I ran him speedless, he was often dead before he got to do anything. A second caveat is that he needs the target to be burning in order to do his thing, and this heavily influences players to run Rockefeller. This makes your team more predictable, reduces team composition diversity, and puts Rockefeller on your team. In case you haven't noticed, Rockefeller hasn't proven to be even mildly noticeable on any Sun teams, at least not any I have seen. So there's that to consider. Maybe my Rockefeller will do better, I don't know. We'll see when I get there. And it's true, the same could be said about the Astral team with Freddy and Dracula, except those two heroes make a pretty big difference and help define the meta. Some people, myself included, use the burns from Awakenings, Valk, and Guardian to trigger Dragoon's passive, but there is a sizable element of uncertainty with that strategy. Your team is probably stronger for not using Rockefeller, but you then run the risk of absolutely whiffing with your Dragoon. And this becomes apparent also with fights against Elemental Stone Ramses or Gluttony, when you have an explosion that fails to kill them. You're probably just going to lose your Dragoon because his offense and defense are burn-based, and without that, he's not so good at his job. Despite all of this, his floor and ceiling are a lot higher than almost all of the other heroes in the game, at least on paper. That is to say that within the scope of his abilities, he can be built offensively or defensively in an extremely wide variety of ways, giving you a lot of room for build design, although your mileage may vary. Now, with all of that said, let's see if some of this changes with his final form. On to the Awakening. There we go. My biggest goal in the game has been accomplished. It only took 3 years to get there, but we're here now. Those weren't bad stats. Look at those numbers and they're pretty decent. But keep in mind that they are just catch-up numbers. Because most heroes' stats are identical at roughly the same level. What this does is it now puts his baseline stats on equal footing with all of the pimped out Billies and Asuras that are running around. So perhaps we'll see some change in his performance once I build up his artifact and get him leveled up some more. I don't think that I currently have the resources to do all of that, especially during this video, but we'll see what I can do while we're here. Most of my orange materials for artifacts went into Constantine's, as I maxed him out recently, so Dragoon will just have to wait, be patient, while I finish up other characters. Now, one of the things that I'm hoping to see, now that I have him at 14 stars, is if I can get his artifact taken to orange as well, then there's that 20% of the damage dealt recovered as HP, and that's not insignificant since I think his rage deals the most damage in the game. And he gets to do this twice, so I'm not sure if it counts the explosion damage or not, but it's just phenomenal the amount of healing he could get off of that. I also built mine with lifesteal, so maybe that'll proc too. He might be able to heal up all of the damage he takes, so he may not be so reliant on speed, and that is incredibly promising because it means that you could potentially make a effective Dragoon that's not reliant on a crap stat. I hate speed so much. Why Dragoon is the best hero? Dragoon relies on block, a mechanic that reduces incoming damage by half. It also has the added benefit of making critical hits not register as crits for the purposes of awakening triggers, and that applies to both attackers and defenders' awakenings. So he still takes critical damage, but block reduces the crit damage by half and prevents it from counting as a crit. When combined with his resilience, it often means that enemies are not critting at all, and simply dealing their regular, non-crit modified damage, and then his block is having that. This gives him, at least in theory, incredible survivability, particularly against the game's premier team, the Astral faction. Dodge, in its current iteration, is an absolutely busted and poorly designed mechanic. Against Moon teams, it's more or less a guaranteed victory, as they simply have no means of interacting with your dodging hero. But Moon isn't a threat almost anywhere. What is a threat is Astral, that uses critical hits, can reach close to or well over 100% crit rate, and crits ignore dodge. This makes dodge-based heroes unable to function, more or less at all, as they are taking full critical damage from every attack, and their defensive tool is 100% useless, so they die incredibly fast. Valkyrie may be a powerful hero, but if she is facing a Billy who critically hits on his rage, she doesn't dodge, no matter how high a dodge percentage you have on her. 70%, 80%, 200%, hey, give her 1,000,000% dodge rate. It's irrelevant. Billy or Asura will not only land their hit, but they will do a buttload of damage in the process. And the healing, and the burn stacks, and your free attack, and all the special tricks and features that Valkyrie has to offer when she dodges simply never happen at all. Dodge-based heroes are very much feast or famine, and due to the nature of the game, it means that they are 100% useless or dominating when facing an entire faction. Valkyrie versus Astral is a liability. Valkyrie versus Moon is a near guaranteed victory. Now, in conclusion, there we have it. A fully awakened 14-star Dragoon with an orange artifact. I hope you all learned something, or at least that I gave you something to think about. That's it from me for now, and remember, if you get criticaled up the butthole for the umpteenth time and it feels a little bit unfair, that's because it is. Fight the power. Fight Billy. Give those boring Astral teams a good, sun-kissed kick in the butt. I'm Rune, and I'm out.